spike in anti-Semitism we're experiencing right now in America began after the worst instance of violence committed against Jewish people since the Holocaust.
Back in 2023, New York Senator Chuck Schumer made a passionate and personal speech from the Senate floor condemning anti-Semitism, and that is the topic of his new book called Anti-Semitism in America, A Warning. In it, he writes, the rise of anti-Semitism is a, quote, five-alarm fire that threatens American democracy. And Senator Schumer joins us now. Senator, thank you very much for being here.
Great to be with you all.
Wouldn't want to be looking out your window when I woke up this morning, right? You've got protesters out there.
I'm not looking forward to these clips being posted a year from now when everything is worse, exactly as you've said in an effort to vindicate you. I know. It's just, there's nothing we can stop. I mean, there's nothing we can do to stop it, though, unfortunately, it seems. All we can do is keep resisting with the hopes that, like, you know, inevitably the government will back down from it. Interesting. Double Cirque Tony having a very different tone with Chuck Schumer as he did with Ta-Nehisi Coates, if you recall. You know, he's not saying that this book has writings that could be seen in the backpack of a terrorist.
It's been a difficult few days. We're going to get to that. We're also going to get to the book. But I want to talk about what's going on in the Middle East, because overnight, the ceasefire that had held and that you had celebrated between Israel and Hamas has been broken.
Right.
Your reaction to that, and do you think a ceasefire could get back on the table?
Yes.
Could it be reestablished?
They were really close. And this ceasefire, the second round of the ceasefire is important because first it says Hamas, which I believe has been a large cause of the trouble, would disarm and Israel would remove its soldiers from Gaza. So they were close. It fell apart. I don't know the exact details. It happened overnight. But I think our government has to work really hard to bring them back to the table and get those hostages home. And I think it's possible because they were close at one point.
Now, last week, you and 9 other Democrats helped avert a government shutdown by voting for a Republican-written bill, which many Democrats have been angered by.
Yeah. By the way, the government is considering keying Teslas an act of terror. And dumb fucks in the chat are like, I don't understand. It's just like you went to a funeral proceeding. It's perfectly valid for the government to just like deny you your visa. I have no thoughts in my mind. Certainly, the fascist administrative state will not expand on the definition of terrorism away from people that you agree to people that you like. Certainly, that's never happened historically. This is the problem. This is the issue with violating certain pre-existing protections.
And we've seen it described as a civil war, as a train wreck. Many Democrats believe, you know, if you have a government shutdown, that will force President Trump and Republicans to the negotiating table. Why not use your vote to push back and fight?
Because the idea that they would go to the negotiating table is they don't do it. This is a new group. This is not the old group. Let me explain. I knew when I took this vote there'd be a lot of protest, but I felt I had to do it for the future, not only of the Democratic Party, but the country. Because here's as bad as that CR bill was, and it was bad, a shutdown is 10 times worse. Let me give you what happens.
And blamed on the Democrats.
And you're right, Gail. But can I just explain
what? But you had been saying you were not going to vote. I think people were upset with you, and people were very upset with you because you had led people to believe that, no, I'm going to vote against
Okay,
it.
well, let me explain why first a shutdown is terrible. People ought to know that. The executive branch, in this case, Musk, Doge, and this horrible guy Vogt, who have no concern for working people, would have had sole power to determine what opens and what closes. They determine what is essential. You can't go to court. So on day 2, get rid of SNAP and food for hungry kids. It's not essential. Day 4, get rid of mass transit aid. Let New York City do it. Not essential. Cut back on Medicaid and health care. Within 2 weeks, everyone would have been howling. Furthermore, it's even worse.
Oh, my God, bro, you are, oh, God. Please step aside, dude. Please, just step down. Yeah, people would be howling. You know at who? The Trump admin for refusing to concede. It's crazy because, like, his own audience, his own base of support don't want this. His own base of support is saying, like, fight back as the Trump administration. Meanwhile, You just gave them the legal jurisdiction to be able to do all of those things down the line. And they have. They immediately cut key expenditures from like mental health treatment and what are you talking about? That was in the bill that you allowed to pass through. Pelosi in San Francisco says she has confidence in Schumer as Senate Dem leader, but offers this reflection on the shutdown fight. I myself don't give away anything for nothing. I think that's what happened the other day. Trump said he was ready to negotiate with the Democrats. Understand me? Trump said he was ready to negotiate with the Democrats. One day later, Chuck Schumer conceded. A day after Trump said he would negotiate and talk to the Democrats about this deal, Chuck Schumer conceded without any assurances. It's so crazy that he's still actively trying to make it seem like this was the right decision. This was a smart decision. This was the best decision possible. I know better. They have some dirt on Schumer then? No, they don't. They don't have dirt on Schumer. The only reason why Schumer did this and Kirsten Gillibrand did this is because they're close to Wall Street. It's that simple. They're close to Wall Street, and Wall Street was like, don't fuck up the bag. The market is already incredibly volatile with the tariffs. If you actually put up a fight against the shutdown, then the market is going to dive. It's going to nosedive even further. You have to protect it. That's it. And he did it against the wishes of his constituents. He did it against the preservation of future expenditures for incredibly important programs that people rely on. That's it. That is the only reason why he did this. The reason why he did this is because bosses made a boss call and said, if you actually put up a fight, a strong fight that leads to a government shutdown, then people are going to, if you put up a strong fight that leads to a government shutdown, then market volatility is going to cause a major crash. So he said, yes, sir, I'll play ball.
It has no off-ramp. Guess who determines when we leave the shutdown? The Republicans. And let's not forget how bad they are. This guy, Vogt, probably the most evil man. He's the guy who came up with that Project 2025.
Yes.
Yeah. He has a whole playbook of what to shut down. So they had said, one of the Republican senators who knows said to us, you'll be in the shutdown for 6 to 9 months till we totally destroy the federal government. So the shutdown was a much worse alternative. I knew I'd get a lot of flack.
But Senator,
I took some bullets from other people.
And you're still taking bullets, but should you have let people know you're thinking ahead of time? Because really, people thought...
The problem was it came so fast. Hakeem and I had a strategy, which was to try and get a bipartisan bill, which meant in the House, the Republicans would have not been able to pass it. Only at the last minute did it happen that they all voted for it. And so Patty Murray tried to get that bipartisan bill on Wednesday. That's why I said we didn't have the votes yet. Mm-hmm. They pulled out Wednesday night, and Thursday we had 2 bad choices. But I assure the public, a shutdown would have been the greatest disaster we have to put the government in the sole hands of the evil, nasty, nihilistic people like Musk and Vogt and Trump. Would have been the greatest. We would have had half the federal government we have now. So I thought I did the thing a leader should do. Even when people don't see the danger around the curve, my job was to alert people to it, and I knew I'd get some bullets.
Senator, the leader in question, that is...
He's like, yeah, I fell on my sword bravely. It's not. You flopped. You showed your belly like a coward. There is no honorable way out of this. I don't know why he thinks he's charismatic enough to be able to play this song and dance to make it seem as though he did the right thing, by the way. I don't know who the he's convincing here. Democrats' approval rating is in the dumpster. 29%, dude. 29% approval is crazy. They have a net negative 38% disapproval right now. 38 points in the dumps. They are unimaginably unpopular. Lowest ever. And this thinks like, nah, this is, you don't understand. I actually did something. I actually did something good. You guys are just too stupid to understand it. And it's funny because that lack of interest in trying to understand where the public is coming from is precisely why the Democrats keep losing. Breaking, Trump has just fired both the Democratic commissioners at the Federal Trade Commission in a potentially illegal move. Nice. Good stuff. Yeah. Well, let's get back to Chuck Schumer. I'm sure he'll have some great takes on this, too.
is actually what people are debating right now. There are people in your party who don't want you to be a leader in the party anymore. And it's a question of what is this moment and what does it require? I want to ask a question about that moment involving the Venezuelan deportations and the court hearings around it. Put the charges or lack of evidence or whatever against these men aside for now. And let's just talk about the interaction of the Trump administration.
Can you counter his argument as that the government shutdown would accelerate towards more federal cuts? Yes, because government shutdowns are unpopular. When you furlough employees, you immediately accelerate the process. And when you accelerate that process, there is a messaging battle that the Democrats can engage in where they can actively communicate to the population, this is what the Trump administration is doing. That means all of the harm and all the responsibility will be attributed to the Trump administration. Okay? And they can't attain that level of unpopularity for too long. People are going to start freaking the f out. People are going to start panicking. The market is going to start collapsing. In that process, it is infinitely better for the Democrats to have put up a fight and communicated the real villains here, especially because if you pass this continued resolution, you already give them the legal power to start closing the money faucet on certain expenditures that the government has power over that Congress is giving to the presidency, and the president has already done that. They're doing it with Doge in a slower process, and they're now doing it with the additional authorization that Congress approved. You've basically said, oh, I'm scared that people might yell at me for forcing a government shutdown, which, you know, if done correctly, would obviously, understandably put the blame on Trump. So instead, I'm giving Trump an opportunity to legally do the exact same thing that a shutdown would do in a way that also offers him cover, in a way that offers him shelter and legal protection.
And the court.
Yes.
They seem to take the position that this court doesn't have jurisdiction over them, and you have Tom Homan saying he doesn't care what the judge thinks. What did Democrats do if and when the Trump administration defies a federal judge?
First of all,
yeah, those cuts he's talking about would not be permanent. It forces the party in power to come to the bargaining table and reinstate things that their base would righteously be angry about. Meanwhile, when you go without a fight and offer Trump the opportunity to cut down federal programs, you basically gave him the legal authorization to do so in a longer timeline. And oh, you gave him shelter. You gave him shelter from scrutiny. It's up.
we have to have rule of law. People say, well, that's not me. If we get rid of rule of law, the 248-year tradition in America, this democracy is over, okay? So it's vital to stop it. There are two courts.
How do the Democrats do that?
There are two courts. One is the court of public opinion. And the public has to make, if this happens, they have to make their voices known, Democrats, Republicans, everyone, in the strongest terms, because it's ending our democracy. Now, but we also have the courts. And so far, the lower courts have done a good job. We hope the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court will do the same job. When the lower courts, and I'm very proud that we put in all those judges last year, many of whom are making these decisions, when the lower courts thus far have said to the Trump administration, you must stop, in most cases they have.
But you hear the
they
Trump
don't, that's not my
administration saying
question.
we're not going to pay attention to the court.
If they don't,
Yeah.
and we go to the Supreme Court and it is defied, democracy is at real risk, and there will have to be extraordinary action taken.
Tony touched on it, Senator.
And that is by the people, by everybody.
But there are people in your own party that are saying, look, it's time for you to go. They no longer trust your leadership. They want somebody else in there. What do you say about that?
Here's what I say.
In your own party saying
Yes.
you've got to go.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm the best leader for the Senate. We have a lot of leaders. You know, when you don't have a president, there's not one leader of the party. There are lots of them. We have a lot of good people. But I am the best at keep winning Senate seats. I've done it in 2005. Just in 2020, no one thought we'd take back the Senate. Under my leadership, we took it. So we now
you're not
are
going
executing.
anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
We have a.
You lost seats. What are you talking about? I'm the best. Why are you the minority leader right now? What does that mean? You were the majority leader. Now you're the minority leader.
Great. We're moving forward. Hakeem and I have a plan. Let me just say this. There's a real contrast between the parties. The Republican Party now, particularly in office, is the party of rich oligarchs who want to really.
Yeah. Democrats learn from the Republicans and they're now lying too. Yeah, but they're lying in the wrong direction. I don't want the Democrats to lie. I want them to earnestly push for genuine changes. Okay? But even if they're going to lie, I want them to lie in the direction of seizing more power. Basically, his argument is that if they shut the government down, then Trump would violate the law. So they decided to change the law to make what Trump is doing legal. That means rule of law is still working. Exactly. This way, they preserve the integrity of the institutions as Donald Trump keeps violating them. It's best to play dead, because if we put up a fight, God forbid, then Trump is going to hurt our feelings. Trump is going to violate the norms. We can't have that. Christ, dude. Coward.
Screw every average American so they can get tax cuts for the rich. And we are fighting that every day. So today, we just issued a statement at 8 o'clock that describes it. Hakeem and I, we have a day of action on Medicaid. In every state, in every corner of the country, Democrats are talking about they're going to Medicaid centers. They're going to people who would be deprived and
Senator, people don't have faith in the Democrats.
Well, let me say this.
And those average Americans.
And we're going to do this day in, day out on issues. Why are they doing tariffs and raising your cost $2,000? It's beginning to work. Why are they taking away Fannie and Freddie and raising your housing costs dramatically? It's beginning to work. His numbers have come down. If we keep at it every day, relentless fighting and showing how they're hurting people so badly, Trump's numbers will get much lower, and his both popularity but also his effectiveness will decline. I believe that strategy will work.
May I hold up the book?
Yes.
Yeah, let's get to the book.
This is why you were here.
Yes.
Because
news that stays news, anti-Semitism.
Yes. Yeah, it's coming out at a time where you said you never thought you'd have to write this book, but you never thought anti-Semitism would be as bad as it is.
Yes.
You said for many non-Jewish people, it's alarming, but it's not a real problem and not a priority. And to that you say...
Yeah, Jewish people, we carry 5,000 years of history on our back. Conor Cruz O'Brien, the great Irish poet, said anti-Semitism is a light sleeper. When things get bad, often, almost in too many societies, it turns on the Jews. You know, I was brought up between 1950, I was born in 1950. For the first 50 years, the Jewish people, we call it the Golden Medina. Jews did great in America, like everybody else. We were advancing up the ladder. There was very little anti-Semitism because the pall of the Holocaust hung over America, and people realized what could happen. But starting in 2000 with 9/11, a little worse in the financial crisis, where a lot of them accused.
Yeah. When I think of bigotry that was supercharged after 9/11, I think of the Jews did 9/11 conspiracies. Okay? And not Islamophobia that became government mandated so that we could justify the atrocities that we committed over there. That's crazy, dude. I don't know. God damn, dude. That is insane. Progressive, by the way. Progressive Party, by the way. You should be embarrassed. It's crazy. You should be embarrassed to say this.
Jewish financiers. But it got much worse in 2017. So that for the first time, Jewish Americans say, maybe it could happen here. Like it happened.
Yeah, who could forget the first hate crime post 9/11, which was, of course, a Jewish man. Oh, wait, it wasn't. It wasn't even a Muslim man, actually. It was a Sikh person that the psychopath thought was Muslim.
Happened everywhere else. So I wrote this book.
Yeah, so
I wrote this book aimed at 5 audiences, and then I'll add a 6th. First, my generation. So they see we're not alone. My experience is often their experience. Second, to my generation's children. They know what's going on, but they didn't know the struggles of Israel, the history of anti-Semitism. You know, they know
the struggles of Israel.
Our holidays. There's a joke about the...
Yeah. No, there was post World War II in the United States of America. It was a historic period, according to Chucky here, where there was no anti-Semitism famously. Why? Because we deported Jews as the American government in the same exact way that the Nazis wanted to deport or put Jews into concentration camps for being suspected communists, of course. That's right. But that period was perfect for Jews, according to Chuck Schumer. Now, don't make any inferences on what the American government might do later down the line.
3 words that describe every Jewish holiday. They tried to kill us. We survived. Let's eat.
Yes.
So they know bad. But third, it's aimed at non-Jewish people who say, you know, it's bad, but why are they so sensitive? You read this book, you'll see it.
Right.
Finally, I'm aiming it at my left, my people on the left, my friends on the left. I've always been a progressive, but we've always seen anti-Semitism on the right. You saw those people at 9/11, at January 6th wearing shirts that more than 6 million. But now a lot of it's trickled over to the left, and that's bad too.
Yeah, the real fear is the leftist anti-Semitism. Oh my God. Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for tackling the real issues right now in this day and age. Anti-Semitism coming from the left, which is, of course, having thoughts about Israel, saying Israel is an apartheid state. Because remember, this told the New York Times, yeah, he thought January 6th is 9/11, by the way, which is a fantastic Freudian slip from Chuck. But this told the New York Times that the UN anti-Semitically says Israel is doing a genocide. He said the United Nations is anti-Semitic. You're out of your mind, dude. I'm not entertaining this conversation. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it so goddamn much. There are varying degrees of fear, some of which comes from an understandable perspective given Jewish history around the planet, okay? Given the history of the Holocaust. And then there is the other side of saying that my own personal feelings as someone who is in support of Israel are being hurt, and therefore the genocide should continue and you shouldn't say anything about it. The moment that you move into that territory, the moment that you start chirping about that, you've lost me, okay? You and your feelings. Suck my dick.